All right, and we're live. Hello, and welcome to the Anomaly Talk podcast. I am your host, Mina Marcos, and sitting beside me is...
Lawrence Gabriel. Let's hit it.
Good. Well, no, we already did the intro, smart one. Today we've got Mina Estfanous. So we've got another Mina. Welcome to the show, Mina. How's it going?
What's going on? Thank
How's
you guys
the
for having me.
drive?
Thank you. It was good. I mean, traffic as usual, but
Yeah, of course.
it
This
is what
area
it
is
is.
pretty bad when it comes to the traffic. But
Yeah.
actually, before we were recording, we were talking about Pat Mahomes, and this is a little bit interesting. We're both big football guys. You're pretty big in football too, right? I know you're more into basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably more into basketball, right?
Yeah, I only watch football probably in the playoffs. I don't.
Okay.
I don't watch.
I'm the same
all
in
that.
basketball. I only watch during the playoffs.
And it's just
When it counts.
Yeah,
When
basically
yeah,
out of
when
like
it's
the 80
serious.
games they have. So
But we were talking about Pat Mahomes, and
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes just recently signed a $500
and $3 million.
Because like the three. Because
yeah,
like,
I wanted to
'cause he
say
was
like
like, he
just keep
negotiated.
the 500, give me the 3. You know, like I'm
probably
sure you don't
divide
need
it
it.
to a nice number.
that's crazy. What's the duration of the contract?
I think it's like 7 or 8 years, 6 years. I don't know.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, but
okay,
still,
so like almost 100 mil. I mean, I wonder. That's probably pre-tax, right? Government's about to get a nice
100%,
payday.
100%. And that's besides all the endorsements he has. Like he's on commercials all the time for different things. I think he signed with is it Nike or Under Armour, something like that. But
I don't know.
This
But
guy's
if
making
it
good
is Nike, doesn't LeBron also have a deal with Nike?
Yeah, it's like $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Billion
So
dollar
but it's a
lifetime.
Nike's
lifetime
just-
contract.
Lifetime contract. Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. $1 billion.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Not
so Mina, we kind of really wanted to have you on because you went through this crazy transformation.
Yeah.
I knew you. I think we knew each other in high school, like early high school, maybe middle school.
I want to say around the 2010 area. So
Okay.
high school. Yeah.
Okay. Early high school.
Yeah.
And the person that I see in front of me today, completely different. So give us like, it's been a while. Catch me up. What's been going on? What are you doing?
I mean, when you say transformation, I feel like it's happened a lot, and I want to say that it's happened a lot to me more than once, right? So there's always these times where, and I think everyone goes through this, where they lose a lot of weight, they keep it off for a little bit, and then it just comes back on. You know what I mean? So I think the last time that I actually decided to make a change, it was more just about sustainability, you know? And I think that's what everyone's really looking for, rather than just losing the weight off, looking good for a couple months, and then just gaining it all
Then
back.
rebounding.
And I've done that so many times since we've known each other since 2010, countless times where like I lose 60, I gain 60, lose 60, gain 60. So it's all about bouncing back and forth.
So in the beginning, was there a reason of why? So first off, I don't know if you're cool with sharing this at your biggest. How much did you weigh?
Oh, no, I'm an open book today.
Okay,
so
awesome.
you guys can ask me
That's
anything you
awesome.
want. It's fine.
We're
And
interested
I'll,
in reading.
I'll be 100% transparent.
Okay.
I just don't want anyone to feel any type of pity for me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I'm just going to be honest with how I felt, how I looked, how I thought, you know? At my biggest, I was 250, 255,
Okay.
around that range, you know?
Your height is like around what?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, just to get
5'10",
perspective.
5'10" on a good day. So.
Because the weight is like more, I guess, like perspective when you actually
Yeah,
hear
of
the height and
course.
everything.
Yeah, like a 6'1" guy compared to a
Yeah.
shorter guy, yeah.
Was there a reason you got to that weight?
Honestly, I probably had some type of binge eating disorder because I just would eat until like I was just extremely full. Like that was my niche. Like we would go, I had a couple friends, we would just hit up the local buffet like all the time, and we would just compete to see how much we would eat. You know what I mean? And then looking back, I'm like, you're an idiot, you know?
It's a horrible decision.
Yeah. But we would literally give kudos to each other and be like, damn, like Mike the other day had like 6 plates at the buffet. Like, damn, he went in, you know, or the other guy went he went to Burger King and Chinese food in the same sitting. You know what I mean? And it just became more of like a competitive eating thing, but we weren't winning anything besides just numbers on the scale, you know? So that's it.
But that's pretty interesting because it was more of a positive thing of who ate more. So it was like it was a positive competition. You guys, it wasn't like I feel so bad for eating this. It was more, I'm really proud of myself for being able to eat all this. So where was the change in mentality?
I feel like the change in mentality, because look, growing up, I was always a heavier kid, right? So obviously, when you're heavier and you're in middle school, elementary school, high school, there's always bullying going on, right? I mean, you can get bullied for the type of hair that you wear. You know, it doesn't matter how you look or how you feel. So I always knew that I was heavier. I always had some type of, like, I want to say back then it was mild. We'll talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about this later with the more recent things, but body dysmorphia was definitely something in the back of my head. In terms of like, okay, I have to wear an X large shirt compared to like everyone else that's wearing like a medium shirt, you know, and things like that. Like, why do my uniform looks completely different than someone else's uniform? So I think that was probably what sparked something like, hey, I should probably make some changes, because I'll go to the doctor and they would say, hey, you're a little overweight. And I'm like, a little, but
Doctors are always nice.
yeah. But no, they're like, yeah, you're a little overweight. You should try losing some weight, And I went to some nutritionists here and there, and they would always say the same things. So I think that's what kind of sparked the change, or wanting a change, at least in the beginning. So
Do you feel like, I always find it interesting. Do you feel like within the friend group, it's ever initiated that mentality to change, or you feel like it's a passive relationship at that age, at that point, like no one really brings that stuff up?
I mean, it just really depends, because my friend group, we were big on eating. And I feel like even nowadays, whenever anyone wants to make an outing, it's always revolved around food, right? Like, it's like, all right, let's go to Applebee's for half apps, or let's go here. Or there's a Chick-fil-A's down the street, let's go there. So I think back then, especially because obviously we were young, so it was more of like, let's get together at a McDonald's and let's just eat, right? And McDonald's back in the day was good,
And cheap.
Yeah, and cheap. They had those burgers, the dollar burgers, like a barbecue ranch burger, and it was just amazing. But anyways, so back to your question, I think it was just more of a passive thing. It was just everyone was eating, everyone was kind of big anyways, so it was just like whatever.
And it's sort of the Egyptian culture doesn't really help that. I mean, I would imagine that I don't know. I didn't really fast at younger ages, but I'd imagine that the cuisine itself is not that helpful either.
Oh, never.
And it's not a lot of people in the Egyptian culture that has this working out mentality. I don't think it's as common. You would probably say as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if you really compare to like the high schoolers now and the college, like early college kids now, compared to how we were when we were younger, I feel like now it's more fitness related. Like, there are a lot more gyms. Gyms are more common. A lot more people are working out now compared to back in the day. I feel like going to the gym, you didn't like, obviously you have TikTok and Instagram now, so you scroll through and you see everyone working out and stuff. So that at least sparks something in your head. Back then we didn't really have that, and I mean, I'm not acting like I'm 50 years old, but you know what I mean? So it's totally different now with the social media age, especially. So,
And how do you differentiate between the need to do? Because I know some people resort to the surgery to lose the weight. Now you did it. I'd imagine the traditional way,
The natural
which is
way,
just
yes.
like actually like eating properly and working out. So where did you have that conversation or that thought at that moment, like when you were trying to lose down the weight between those two choices?
I mean, I have a personal opinion on the surgery itself. I feel like the surgery should be a last resort if you've exhausted everything else naturally. I don't like.
We should probably explain what the surgery is, just in case.
Yeah, so
someone
the
doesn't
surgery basically, there's a couple of them, right? But I think the most common one now is either they put a rubber band around your stomach, so kind of just lessening the capacity of your stomach, or they actually staple it where they make a separate pocket for your stomach. So it's basically, long story short, you get full quicker because you have a smaller stomach. So back then, no, I had no intention of doing the surgery. But just to touch on that, I feel like the surgery should just be kind of like a last resort thing where you're extremely unhealthy. You can't do anything. You've exhausted everything in your power. Then I think you should go for the surgery.
Can you explain why you believe it should be like a last resort? Like, what have you seen from?
So
that,
I
that would be
actually,
the
a
last
couple
resort?
of my clients have done the surgery, right? And what happens when you actually have the surgery is that you can't eat as much, and you have to get your vitamins through outside sources. You have to supplement your vitamins. So, for example, I have one individual where he had the surgery, and he was struggling to get down 1,200 calories, compared to what he should be eating, which is like 2,700 calories. But 1,200 to him was way too much. So it's basically just closing your stomach to the point where you can't even get your body's necessity. So of course, yeah, he lost a lot of weight and he looks great now, but and he did everything in his power. So I have total respect to him. But what I'm saying is, for anyone else, the average Joe, or even myself, using myself as an example back in the day, I hadn't exhausted all of these different, traditional ways. So I feel like the surgery shouldn't have been an option, anyways.
So the takeaway from that is because you're starving yourself caloric wise, and you can't get the proper nutrients that you need for your body because your stomach literally will not allow it. You're saying that is the danger of the consequence of the surgery, even though you may lose a lot of weight. Which actually, let me point out, because I've seen people who've done the surgery and don't lose as much weight. They may lose it quickly in the beginning, but I've seen them rebound like back to their like near their original weight after. So it's not as clear cut, because I feel like some people look at the surgery as like a magical solution
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I feel like everyone's really just looking for like a magic pill, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But just to go back to your point, actually, Larry, I always preach that like under eating is the same as overeating. So I found that sometimes someone who's like really under eating and not eating enough will not lose weight, and then you give them more food, and all of a sudden it's almost like their metabolism wakes up, right? You start putting fuel to the engine, and it starts running, and that's when they're like, wow, I've never eaten so much food and I'm losing weight. You know what I mean? So that's also one of the problems for the surgery.
So how then do you find the balance between? Obviously, this is subjective, but as somebody who knows the science behind our anatomy and muscles and everything that goes into weight loss and exercise, how do you find that balance between overeating and undereating? How do you calculate what you're supposed to be eating and what the correct intake is?
Well, first, I don't want to call myself a scientist, right?
Yeah, of course.
But no, it's really just, you can go online and get these calculators, right? The macro calculators, the calorie calculators, but they're still just such a generalization. So, like for example, I can have two people in front of me. They weigh exactly the same, 200. Their height is exactly the same, right? But one person eating 2,000 calories can cause them to lose weight, but the other person eating 2,000 calories can cause them to gain weight. So you need to find your balance because everyone's balance is different. So it depends on their activity levels, how hard they train, how often they train, how many steps they're getting in the day, and their bodies too. So these two people can be eating 100 grams of potatoes, for example, and it'll react totally different. You know what I mean? So it really just depends on what you can digest, what you can get down, and of course, your consistency. If you hate potatoes, why are you going to eat potatoes every day? You know what I mean? So it's the same thing.
Okay, and going back to the surgery, is another reason why you don't recommend the surgery is that there's not really much of a shift in mentality, and that causes people to kind of relapse.
I love that question. Yeah. I think so. Going back to what I was saying was, I rebounded 60 pounds down, 60 pounds up, 60 pounds down. That the change was always physical. It was never mental. I still had the same bad mentality as I was when I was 250 and when I was 180. You know what I mean? So I always preach that your mentality should change before your physicality in terms of your relationship with food. So again, I said I had a bad binge eating disorder, and I'm positive I did. But once you fix that, the weight will come off. So when I lost to 250 to 180, 170, whatever it was, no matter what, my relationship to food was, all right, when I have a cheat meal, I'm gonna stuff my face because that's the only thing I enjoy. You know what I mean? So back to your point, the surgery, yes, fixes your physicality, but it doesn't change your mentality. And your mentality needs to change if you actually want to be consistent in something. Whether it's losing weight, gaining weight, whether you're starting a business, whatever it is, your mentality needs to come first.
So speaking to you directly or specifically, what was the change or what led to the change in mentality? So you said you went back and forth. Now, to lose 60 pounds, that's, I would imagine, is a huge accomplishment. And that's something so precious that you wouldn't want to relapse, because then all that work that you did to lose that 60 would have just been thrown away. So something drastic must have taken place, or some major change in mentality must have led to you shedding it off and then changing mentality and never going back. And what was that?
So to go back to that, at least, I feel like when you change your mentality, right, it's also changing your relationship in terms of the weight loss spectrum. It's changing your relationship with food, right? And I'll be honest, I dealt with a lot of personal mental issues throughout my whole life. You know, I know this is such a touchy subject, and a lot of people don't really like saying this, but I dealt with depression a lot. So in terms of depression, anyways, you get to the point where there's different kind of like different effects, right? So the one that I think I dealt with the most was body dysmorphia. So there were days where I would legit not want to leave my house. I would cancel plans with whoever it was because I didn't want to go out in a t-shirt. You know, it's 90 degrees out, I'm wearing a hoodie, you know, or I'm wearing like some type of big jacket. So that mentality change, I feel like needed to happen first because you needed to be more comfortable in your own skin to actually let it stay. So when I lost to 200, when I went down from 250 to 180, and I find this actually with a lot of people that do the same thing, they still see themselves as if they're 250. So even when you're down to 180, or the people that do the surgery lose 100 pounds, they still see themselves as a 300-pound person, no matter what.
Why is that?
I think it's just more of just something embedded in their minds where they have low self-esteem, and it's the culmination of years. So when you're bouncing back, it's not like you wake up one day and you're like, "Damn, I'm back to 250." You know what I mean? It starts to creep up on you. 170 turns to 180, 180 turns to 190. Then you're like, "Oh, I should wake up." Then you go down to 185, and then you go up to 195. So I feel like the self-esteem issue is really the culprit behind all these different fluctuations. In terms of you're never comfortable in your own skin. So when I was down to 170, and again, I find this with a lot of my clients, they're still in their heads, they see themselves the same way. So they're saying, I still think I have more weight to lose. And I'm like, man, you're skin and bones. Like, you don't have any more weight to lose. Don't be afraid to eat. And I think another big issue is being afraid to eat. So when you starve yourself, you're starting to be afraid or scared of food, right? Oh, that pizza right there is going to make me go another hour on the treadmill. So I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So until you actually change your relationship with food, I feel like, and change your relationship with yourself, your mind, because if your mind doesn't change, you're not going to change.
Is that a bad thing though? The weighing out if I have this slice of pizza, that means an hour on the cardio machine. Is that, I mean, I'm a pretty impulsive spender. So what I do is I'm like, okay, this thing is this X amount of hours or X amount of days of work to purchase. So and that's change. Since I've started doing that, I've started telling myself, okay, it's not worth the purchase. So is it a bad mentality to use that strategy where you're comparing things that you intake to?
You see the consequence of
Yeah.
of the action.
Well,
Exactly.
that's exactly the point. It becomes a consequence. So it's
Ah.
almost as if it's like, all right, I'm going to have this burger, and I'm like, I'll just spend an extra hour tomorrow. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to have some ice cream. That's another 30 minutes, whatever. Throw it on there. You know what I mean? And it becomes a point where you start labeling things as good and bad, you know? And having something that's good and bad in front of you just leads to more and more temptation. So you're just like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Bad day. Ice cream. You know what I mean? So it just becomes almost like everything's related to exactly how you're feeling and how you look at things. So I would do things like, man, I would do things where I would have a cheat meal, right? And I'd feel guilty. I'm like, damn, I think this cheat meal is a little too much. I shouldn't have had that third burger, you know? And then that third burger becomes, I'm already screwed. Fourth burger. I'm feeling some dessert. It's a baisa, you know, like I'm already done. So I'm gonna get some more ice cream. I'm gonna get more this, more that. And then you just get back to that mentality where it's like, it's either 100% good or 100% bad, you know? And you get to the point where you're just binging and binging and binging. And that can completely erase. I tell my clients where if you have a bad cheat meal or a bad binge, look, it's a choice. It's not, it went over. And I actually just made a post about this where what to do after a binge eating episode, right? And it's the first thing I say is get over it. It happened, you know? Just, I had this extra slice of pizza that I shouldn't have had. End it there. That's it. It happened. You know, you don't have to all of a sudden be like, oh my God, what did I do? and you start getting more and more upset, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go bury myself on the treadmill, and you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. That's really what it is.
So you have this change and shift in mentality, and then you start going to the gym or you start working out, right?
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you go, you know, full speed ahead into it? Was it gradual? Tell me a little bit of what that transition was like.
So if we're talking about when I was in high school and college, yeah, I went full speed ahead and I had no idea what I was doing. I'll be honest. And I feel like that's most people, right? And most people kind of just go to the gym. They don't really know what's going on. They watch a couple of videos, Google best workout split for beginners. You know what I mean? And
Are you
they
on my
go.
search history?
But yeah, I mean, that's what most people do. And that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine because I feel like you need to go through, make mistakes, and just get through it and just understand what works for you. Because again, going back to that potato reference, something may work for someone else that doesn't work for you, or vice versa. So in the beginning, yeah, went to the gym. I had a good gym partner. We would work out, switched to a lot of gyms, had a lot of fun. But again, the mentality wasn't there. It was still in the back of my mind, you know, a bad relationship with food. I still binge ate. There were days where I'd go 5 days perfect, like tracking macros, tracking calories. I was on the money. And then 6th day and 7th day, I would just eat. I'd be like, oh, I deserve this, and I just eat. And that's where it becomes a cycle diet, or a yo-yo diet, they call it, where you're just dropping, gaining, dropping, gaining. So that's how I was in the beginning days. And we'll just fast forward because basically throughout college, I was up and down, up and down, up and down, right? I would go from 240 to 200 to 210 to 180, yo-yo, until I feel like the year before COVID is where I really caught my stride, where I decided, all right, this is it. Like, I need to do something, right? So first things first, before COVID, and again, I'm full disclaimer, right, to everyone who's watching and to you guys, I want to be 100% transparent because I really just want anyone who went through what I went through or is going through what I went through to just at least relate in some fashion.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't want anyone to feel any pity. You know what I mean? Because the last thing someone who's going through this wants is pity.
Pity.
Yeah.
That
is the one thing where they put their arm around you, like, you know what I mean? Like,
the worst.
it is. It really is. And I had that happen a lot. So anyways, a year before COVID, I started talking to, psychiatrists and stuff. And I was basically diagnosed with depression, right? And it almost as if it made perfect sense in my head. Where in my head it was like, man, that this actually is true. I felt this way, and it's not like the placebo effect with the sugar pill. It's reality. So that's when I decided to seek help, and I sought help with different therapists and different people. And shout out to my girlfriend because I talk to her all the time, and she probably whatever, but I talk to her a lot,
No,
But
that's
she was awesome. So, anyways, that's when the mentality change happened because you need to first diagnose your own problem. And diagnosing your own problem is definitely the first step. And after that, everything started clicking. I started to do things on purpose. I read a lot of things online and read a lot of books where they would say, if you're uncomfortable doing something, just do it. You know what I mean? And there were days where I would be dreading going outside wearing a t-shirt. Like, as funny and as sad as that sounds, it's true. I would wear a t-shirt. I was like a double XL, right? And this t-shirt's like a dress on me, like, and I would be like, oh my God, it's so tight. Like, no, I can't do this. And like, I'd cancel plans, and then I'd have friends and even my girlfriend would come and like, just be like, hey, like, you got to do this. But I would say no. But after that mentality change, I started forcing myself to go out. And at first, you can't really just go out 100% of the time. There are days where you're just not going to do it, but one time turns to 2 times, turns to 3 times, etc. And I was on a really good stride, until COVID hit. And then COVID hit and I was going to the gym. I was doing ready. I got actually certified through the ISSA for personal training, strength and conditioning, and nutrition.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. This was before COVID. And then COVID happened and everything shut down, right? And then that one, I remember when it shut down in March, 1 week turned to 2 weeks, turned to like 7 months. So
We were so confident. We were so confident we were gonna go back to everything normal so quick, and
yeah. But anyway, but I mean, I was still determined. So that day when we found out things were closing, I was still so attached to the gym and to my nutrition and everything. I went out to Dick's Sporting Goods, spent like $1,000 on a whole rack, squat bar,
was this
everything.
before the prices went crazy? Or
It was like
or at-
literally
just at the beginning?
A funny story with that actually. I went to Dick's Sporting Good in one town, right? And the guy in front of me gets the last squat bar and rack pull, right?
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, dude, like you need to find me one. Like, please find me one. And he finds me one like 30 minutes away. So I'm like, put it on hold. I rush there, get it. Literally, one family is behind me and they're like asking. I'm like, it's mine. Sorry. So I got that. I got a bench and stuff. But I feel like working out in a garage, that's where I set up my things. Working out in a garage is totally different than working out in an actual gym. Social aspect, confidence boost, having people around you working out hard, like pushes you, right? And there's some people who do it, but I personally, it wasn't cut out for me. So that's when it just took a sharp decline again. And that's when I found myself struggling with the same things that I did earlier. And yeah, basically I think we closed in March. So I would want to say like May, because I did it for 2 months until I realized I hate this. So May until when gyms open again, I think it was September, something like that. That's when I just started putting on more weight because I was just back into a rut, so.
Now, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit just to get a sense of.
I definitely skipped a lot, sorry.
No, you're good. No, that was. If I have to speak less, then you're doing a great job.
that's facts, by the way. That's facts.
You were saying in your worst time, you said people feel pity, right?
Yes.
And I want to kind of like expand on that because I feel like people don't really know what to do in situations where they have a friend or they know someone going through a hard time with like just losing weight in general. So what is the role of that friend at that point? What do you prefer in terms of that treatment? Or you feel like people in general in your situation just prefer to be, do you want to just have it all self-motivated and just have the friends kind of back off? Or basically what do you see back now and be like, yeah, I think that people would find it better if they just did it this way?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's really person dependent because me personally, I know all my friends that asked about me because I kept it very down low. And plus during COVID, especially, like people weren't seeing each other anyways, right? But even before that, the people that did know, or at least thought they knew, I really appreciated them reaching out and just saying, hey man, how's it going? And like, oh, let's do this. And sometimes I'd say no, right? And sometimes I'd say yes. So I feel like that role of a friend who knows that someone is going through something, because look, we all go through something, we all have those times where it's like a heart rate monitor or whatever it is, right? Where it just peaks and valleys. So just that friend being on, at least that friend telling the person going through it that they're there, even if they don't have to say a word, right? At least knowing that there's someone there I can reach out to if I want to talk. And there were times where I had certain friends where I just wanted to talk randomly about some stupid crap. Patrick Mahomes just signed a deal. I wanted to talk about that because there was nothing else to do. I wanted to get out of my own head. So I feel like just being available is probably the best thing you could do. But there's also a fine line. And again, everyone's different. But me personally, I feel like there's a fine line with overstepping, where you don't want to overstep and ask too mmany questions because it starts to make the person going through it just think more and more and more. And the last thing they want to do is actually think more and more and more, So I think availability is the biggest thing.
And also, I feel like awareness, right? If you see that the friend, in this case you, right, that is going through this, it's like an alcoholic. It's like if you know a friend that has a problem with alcohol, don't keep taking them to the bar, right?
Exactly.
So is that like another element?
Yeah,
of it?
no, 100%. And I want to also touch on like even these small gestures where it's almost like, their Dunkin' order, right? And you just drop by and be like, hey man, I was in the area. I got some coffee for you here. That's it. And you don't even have to stay, make conversation. you let the person going through it initiate what they want to do. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Because if you overstep, it almost becomes a thing where they just decide to shut you out 100%. You know,
Makes
it's
sense.
just an all or nothing thing.
I want to also pinpoint that you said by the way, thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of people have, um, maybe they're just a little too proud, or whatever the case is. You said you decided to seek help. A lot of people, they'll find out they're depressed, but then they'll try to figure it out themselves, which statistically and just I think psychology might be able to back me up. I'm not qualified at all. Doesn't lead to the best solution. But you decided to seek help. Why did you decide to seek help? Why was it important? Obviously, thankfully today I hope you're in a better place. But why was it important for you to seek help, or what allowed you to open up your eyes to seeking help rather than trying to figure it out on your own?
Honestly, I feel like talking about it probably helped me the most, only because I never really ever spoke about the thoughts that were going through my head, right? So I had certain individuals, including my girlfriend, where we would just literally sit in the car and I would just talk, right? And I'd talk and I'd say, oh, I need to do this better. I need to do this better. And she would try her best to help. But at the same time, it comes to a point where, like you said, I guess statistically, you're never going to actually figure it out yourself. You need someone who is versed, who's seen different situations, and who knows the next steps. Um, and to anyone listening, really, don't try to do this yourself. Just, I feel like if you're going through something and it becomes more of, instead of like a peak and valley where the valley is elongated and you're just feeling like crap the whole time, talk about it at least. It doesn't have to be to a therapist or to a psychologist because, like you said, people are a little too proud now to say anything, you know? And thankfully, I feel like the mental health awareness nowadays is a lot better. So just speaking about it really is just the one thing that you really want to do. And again, it doesn't have to be to anyone. It doesn't have to be to a professional yet, but at least speaking to a friend, a family member, anyone. Even, you know, there's even some people online who like, and this is obviously like not something you want to do if you don't really like trust the people, this forum or whatever. But there are people online where if you Google, hey, I'm feeling like this, or I'm feeling like this, you'll see thousands of posts of people going through the same thing as you are. So at least doing that and then being able to talk about it to someone else, like, oh yeah, I know, and it becomes more normal to speak about because you know other people are going around it. And who knows, you talk to your friend and he may be going through something the same, similar, and you guys are be able to at least comfort each other. And someone who's going through something is able to relate more to someone else who's going through something similar. You know what I mean?
Because sometimes when you keep it in your thoughts, it's almost like you can justify it in your head that your thoughts are correct as to what you're treating yourself with. And the moment you have to say it out loud to someone else, it's like oh, maybe these thoughts kind of sound a little bit ridiculous now that I'm
Exactly.
saying it out loud to someone else now. So it's like a correction, to yourself in a way. And so that's why people you can catch themselves in a dark hole. Even
Exactly.
like, yeah, when I moved to San Francisco, um, when you're more like by yourself, it's crazy what you like can dig yourself
Oh
deep
yeah.
into your thoughts when you're like not around other people. It's so I completely agree with you on the
Yeah, and
talking aspect of it. I wanted to ask you, you were talking about you were using the potato thing as like an example. I wanted to kind of get an idea that how do you? I feel like sometimes there's a difference between people want to do it a certain way because they feel like it's best that way and they're more comfortable with it that way, and the preference of the way is corrupted, and they're just you get them trying to get at is like you say, oh, yeah, the person be like, oh, I don't want to do it this way. I'm not comfortable with doing it like this way. But in reality, the way they're preferring is a little bit corrupted, and you feel like they're not getting the best help doing it in the way that their mind is telling them
in
the
terms of
best way.
diet and training and
Yeah,
things
and
like
all of
that,
it.
right?
Yeah. So how do you tell the person that their mentality is corrupted, and that because they're preferring it a certain way, you could tell that it's corrupted.
I feel like first you need to realize or at least ask why they prefer it that way, right? It's like, all right, I think it'll be better if you have more rice, right? And have more carbs. Like, that big keto craze that's going on, which I absolutely despise, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a
That's,
problem.
No
that's
offense,
our-
no
No,
offense,
no.
no offense to anyone listening who's
No,
on
I get it.
keto.
I get it. I get
Forget
it.
that our IT guy over here is dying of
Alright.
laughter because he's on keto.
I feel like
Take some
my
notes.
face is gonna be blurred now.
Yeah, he's gonna start screwing up your audio.
No, but in all honesty, my personal preference is never go keto. Never. Because are you really not going to have a sandwich or a banana for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? Because it's all about sustainability. And you'll lose weight, 100%. You have a wedding or something, the IT guy is going to shut me off right
Yeah,
now. My mic, is my mic still on?
He's been getting hamburgers without buns.
No, but seriously, like it's a great way to lose weight fast, right? You have a wedding or something coming up and you want to look good and you want to be more confident in your suit, you want to fit into a tight dress or whatever it is, go for it. But just understand that after the wedding, you're going to bounce back, you're going to go back to where you are and maybe even more because you're totally killing your insulin sensitivity to carbs. But going back to your question, it really just depends on why they don't prefer to do something. So if I were to tell someone have more rice, or actually, you know what, you would benefit by doing less cardio. You don't need to be doing 3 hours of cardio a day. You should be doing 1 hour, or it would be better to do 1 hour and then some sort of resistance training or some sort of weight training, right? So it really depends on why they prefer.
Yeah, because
not
it's
to do
always like, it's like,
something.
oh, I see great success when I do cardio a lot. So like, let's do more cardio workouts. And then to you, it's like you're getting false positive like information, data from whatever you're doing. And so like I need to articulate to you that your mentality is a
Exactly.
little bit
More is not better for a lot of things, right?
Mm.
So like you're having great success with an hour of cardio a day, but just because you doubled it to 2 hours a day, it's not going to double your progress. It might actually hinder your progress, and you might be getting less progress as you were when you were doing 1 hour,
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
It seems like it's a very fine balance between everything. So you were telling me that you watched our previous episode with Ali, who's a powerlifter, and she kind of talked about how lifting and just the sport of exercising and going to the gym had a huge impact on her mental health as a way to exit, kind of to just you've got work, you've got schooling, you've got family, you've got all of these responsibilities, and the gym is just that place that where
turn
you
it
can
all
just,
off.
exactly.
Right?
And
Yeah.
so I kind of want to understand the place of the gym for you in your life and its placement and what it did for you in terms of being an exit or an escape.
So mentally, it did everything. It really did. And also, the gym itself is somewhere where people may not realize the social aspect behind it, where you see people every day and you may even just socialize in terms of asking someone or just talking, hey, how many more sets you got? Or, hey, why are you doing this? Or someone may come up to you and start some random conversation about something and you just joke and laugh. That mentally actually plays such a big role, and a bigger role than most people understand. So in my personal life, going back to the garage gym, I didn't really have that, right? So I'm working out in a dark garage, cold, alone, and I'm, again, like, don't feel bad for me because I at least had a garage, But you know what I mean? So the gym itself really did help mentally because it sort of became an escape. So alongside coaching, I also work in finance, right? Alongside finance, I also day trade. So I have a lot of things going on at once, right? And I'm very busy throughout the day, especially because coaching is a 24-hour job. Shout out to my clients. Yes, you text me all the time and I answer all the time, right? Regardless. No, seriously. So I kind of make it clear to my clients, like, hey guys, like if I am busy, I most likely will still answer. I'm in a meeting countless times. I'm in a meeting at work, or I work from home. I'm in a meeting, I'm cooking my chicken, and I'm answering clients at the same time, right? But that is fine. I hope my boss doesn't hear this. But
Obviously, you're cooking your chicken during lunchtime, right?
yes,
Yeah,
of course, when I
sure.
put my status on away, right?
Yeah.
But the gym is something sacred to me. And as cliche as that sounds, right? It really is. So when I get to the gym, I kind of just turn my phone on do not disturb. And my clients know that if I don't answer between, and I go to the gym every day at the same exact time. My schedule every day is same exact time, but we'll get to this whole new routine anyways. So they know from 6:15 to about 8:30, 9 o'clock. If you text me, I'm probably still gonna answer, but it's not gonna be that quick text that I usually do during the day, right? And if you're texting me about something really urgent, I already tell them, just call me. If I get a call from a client, I will pick up, right? But if I get a text saying, hey, tomorrow or next week I'm going on vacation, what should I do? I can leave that for later on, you know? So there's still urgency involved. So that's just how sacred the gym is to me, because it really has helped me mentally. And there are times where I don't want to go to the gym, right? But I still go, and then I'm just so happy I went. And again, that's cliche. I'm speaking in cliches right now. But it really has helped, so.
Now, you kind of intrigued me because it sounds like you're a busy bee. Because I like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really, I like to dabble.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned day trading. You have your clients because you're a personal trainer and you've got your day job.
Yeah.
Real quick, because I think it's more important that what we were talking about, because you're extremely relatable. But cryptocurrency, yay or nay?
Certain, yes. Certain
Okay.
cryptocurrencies.
And Larry, I
Those
think
random Doge wife or whatever
Do-
it's called, or I don't even know.
They made a Doge wife?
Yeah.
Stop.
Doge got married and had a wife.
No way. Congrats
There's
to
going to
him,
be
bud.
Doge kid, Doge son, Doge daughter
You're
soon.
kidding.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised. Those
Wouldn't be
things, I wouldn't put my money
Totally
in.
agree. But
Yeah.
like the top three, Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic.
Yeah, and actually ADA as well.
And
Cardano.
ADA, Cardano.
Yes, that's
Cardano.
also big.
I-
You always
I
want to
wish
look
I
at the
was in
caps. The
Cardano.
large caps usually I feel like would be okay. But again, crypto is not really my niche. I do have some money in
Are
there.
you more of like a long-term investment, like ETFs?
especially before my coaching got off to a great start, no complaints, thank God. I was definitely more into options. I would day trade options
my God.
every day.
No, options is oh my God,
Options
the
is
amount
the
of money
devil.
I've lost.
Options are the devil. Do not
Yes.
get into them.
No. Meanwhile, you're doing it
No, I mean nowadays you need to be like very involved, right?
for sure.
It's a full-time job. It's not something that someone can pick up in a week and all of a sudden start making millions of dollars, right? And that's really nothing in life. But I realized that like since I have so much going on, I'm in meetings all the time. I'm cooking my chicken all the time. So
How do you handle all that chicken? By the way, I meal prepped for 1 week and I hated chicken after
dude,
that.
I have
It's just
figured
so
out
dry,
like
especially
just
when you
what I like.
refrigerate it.
Well,
Do you make like your entire week or do you?
no, that's the secret.
Okay, so you do it daily.
do not want to make too much at a time, because
Yeah.
if you make too much at a time, second or third day, you're going to be dreading eating it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You only make enough for 2 days, 3 days max, especially if you're going on a trip or something, you know? Don't be afraid of spices either, as long as the spices are clean. Don't get that steakhouse barbecue sugar maple syrup rub
Yeah.
that like says 0 calories, but if you look on the fine print, it's like 1/8 of a teaspoon, right? Which is literally like a speck. So and they're allowed to actually, round down on the 0
Oh
calories.
no way.
Yeah, so 0 calories is actually 5 calories. So 1/8 of a teaspoon times that by 8, 1 teaspoon is 40 calories. Imagine how much you're dumping the whole thing. That's another like 400
geez.
calories,
Yeah.
So anyways, but don't be afraid of spices. I utilize my air fryer a lot because I'm very lazy. But when I have the time, I use like a nice grill or something, and I like my chicken very tender, so I don't like overcooking. Overcooked chicken is the devil. Do not do that.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, where were we?
Pee break. Are you good by the way?
I can go for another couple.
We could take a
Okay,
break.
cool.
Pee break.
Yeah, we can take a break. Oh, you're good. You said. You can go.
He said he's
I'll
good
pee.
for a
I'll
couple
pee.
yeah,
minutes.
yeah. Just go.
Go for it.
Take a break.
So Mina does drink 3 gallons of water a day. Yeah. So he's been peeing like every 5 minutes. So we'll be back.
And we're back from the break. All right, so Mina, we left off on kind of the finance stuff. So, I mean, with the crypto stuff, I was telling Mina and others that I kind of just stick with the Ethereum because of the smart contracts behind it.
Yeah.
Because Bitcoin just seems like it's like the way I look at it is that it's just this coin that everyone treats like gold, essentially, like physical gold, and
Almost like a currency.
yeah, and that's really like what it is. But technologically behind it, other than that, is like that's really essentially it. It's the hype behind the
You're gonna
asset
offend.
itself, right?
You're gonna offend a lot of people.
It's okay.
Everyone's
You
just
know,
like
the
selling.
truth, the
Yeah,
Sell,
everybody's
sell,
just
sell.
selling.
Larry
and
said sell.
unsubscribing.
the truth offends sometimes. So, but Ethereum, the reason why I like it is because, and people who don't know smart contracts is like this idea, like if you and I made a bet on a basketball game, right? So we'll code in the rules of the, we'll say like if the basketball game, is won by this team, then you owe me, let's say 100, Ethereum coin. So, and then
100 Ethereum coin.
whatever,
That is a
whatever,
big
stacking.
bet. That is a
whatever,
big bet.
whatever the
Stacking,
amount
Larry.
is, okay?
Now we know how much Larry.
Listen,
Yeah,
business is
right?
booming. Right?
It's podcast.
So that's like the way, because before then, the way it would have to work is that you and I would have to hire a lawyer or hire like a third party entity, and that entity would have to hold our money and then
escrow.
distribute it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then distribute it depending on how it went. So it's a very legally like complicated process. So the smart contract makes that a lot easier. That's why. Long story short, that's why I like it.
I would explain it kind of like DraftKings, really, if you really think about it. DraftKings or something, a FanDuel, something like that, where if you were to make a bet, something like that, where it's just automatically going to pay out to the winner.
Yeah, and
whether
so
the
it's not
house
just
keeps or you keep.
Yeah, and it's not just betting, like life insurance.
It's a contract.
Like
yeah.
life insurance. Think of it like that. You're getting your money from life insurance. Person dies. That's a coded rule.
Some type of event that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
So we talked about pre. I know you didn't want to use the word transformation. Do you have a better word?
No, you can use the word transformation. It's just more of, I want to say, change, progression,
I like
progress,
progression. I like
something like
progression.
that. Yeah.
So we talked pre-progression.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the stages of progression itself, right? Now I kind of want to shift towards after COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your plans for the future. So gym's open back up. You're back in the gym. You're happy. You're doing your thing. What else is going on?
So gyms opened up in September, right? Or end of September, October, something like that. All the gyms were different, but my gym opened around that time. So it definitely did take a little bit to get out of that rut, right? Like you can't just wake up the next day and be like, time to go, right? And that, again, that's my biggest advice to everyone, where if you're looking to make some type of change in fitness related, you really just want to start step by step. You can't just go 100% in all of a sudden because you're just going to burn out. So the first things first was just building some type of routine. November 2nd was actually the first day of my diet, where my diet really consists of 5 meals a day. And I can tell you 3 weeks ago at 1 o'clock exactly what I ate, right? And it's a very kind of strict routine. And that started in November. And it came after, of course, again, gyms opening up in September. So it took about a little bit over a month, to really get back into a routine like that. So November 2nd is when I started, and I was actually at that time 243. Okay. So November 2nd onwards, every day this started to become the same exact routine. And going back to my experience mentally, that helped immensely. And that's my biggest piece of advice to anyone who's really going through something. You need to start just getting into some type of routine because it helps you stay out of your own head. So personally, that's exactly what I did. Every day was exactly the same. My meals now are 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, go to the gym at 6, eat at 9 o'clock, And it didn't start out like that, but at least it was roughly around those times. So that's November. Things went onwards. I would have a cheat meal every week. And the one thing I think that was very pivotal to real progress or progression, like we want to say, instead of transformation, was controlling your cheat meal. And I preach this to a lot of my clients where a bad cheat meal will set you back, but a good cheat meal will keep you forward, will actually move you forward faster. In terms of keeping it to like an hour, right? You can't start, and I kind of preach that you want to have your cheat meal at the end of the day. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but this is good advice, where if you start out your day with a cheat meal, more than likely it's just going to turn to a cheat day, right? And that's the last thing you want. You don't want a cheat day because one cheat day will mean 1 week behind, right? So that's my biggest piece of advice. Controlling your cheat meals, making sure you stop when you're satisfied, especially if you're coming off some type of binge eating disorder like I was. because that day will just turn to you going to Dunkin' Donuts, getting a coffee and a donut. Then you go to the McDonald's down the street, get a couple burgers, and it'll just keep going on and on. And then before you know it, the next day, you're weighing in at like 10 pounds over, and you're going to have to work that whole week just to get it back, you know? That was after COVID. And fast forward all the way until today, or actually, if we want to go maybe a month ago, my lowest weight was 178. This morning I was 178.2. And that's when I really decided I want to take this further. I'm in love with the process. And again, not speaking in cliches, but it's really taught me that being in a routine like this and doing something that you truly enjoy, and I enjoy training, I really do. And anyone who follows me on Instagram can see that there's actually some people that like to make jokes because they just scream at me in the middle of the gym, one more, because I will yell at the end of my set, one more. And if you have a good gym partner like I do, when I say one more, they're helping me get one more. And then I'll say one more again, and I'll get one more. So I think it was a month ago or 2 months ago when I started getting in my head this certain idea. And I actually was talked to by a bunch of people. I'm working with a coach, by the way. And before people ask, I am a coach, but I also have a coach. And the analogy I like to put it is, by no means I'm comparing myself to him because he is the GOAT, but Tom Brady, right, has a QB coach. The best in the world has a QB coach. So who am I to say that I'm too good to have a coach? You know, because you always want someone working with you and who may have more experience. This guy does, 100%. Shout out to Chris Tuttle. Coach, please give me more food. No.
I like that mentality, by the way, because there's this phrase that I started to live by, and it's never be the smartest guy in the room. Because if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're not
never
progressing. You're not learning. And so I feel that's extremely that hits on your point, and that you're a coach, but you've also got a coach because you don't want to ever stop learning, and that's going to make you a better coach.
That's actually great words to live by, because I'm the first person to tell my clients, look, I'm going to help you with 100% of my efforts. I am your resource. You have a question, you text me. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have some random question. I really hope you're not thinking about your diet at 3 o'clock in the morning. You better be sleeping, because I also preach 8 hours of sleep a day. I always tell them, like, I will give you everything that I know. And if I don't know something, I will tell you I don't know. I'm not going to give you some BS answer and possibly screw up something with you. I'm not going to tell you, no, actually, you know what? Don't eat this or eat this. And in the back of my mind, I'm not too sure. So I'm the first person also to say, I'll find out for you, you know, or I think this is the best option. But great words to live by. So anyways, I actually wanted to keep this as an exclusive for the Anomaly podcast.
Very nice.
And I wanted to announce, drum roll, please. I started my prep for a bodybuilding show 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. And I will be doing a bodybuilding show November 13th.
Wow.
This year.
Yes,
so
this year.
2 months.
In 9 weeks.
Oh,
9
that's
weeks
awesome.
from this Saturday.
Okay.
And I wanted to announce that because a lot of people have been asking me, and not that I'm some type of celebrity, but a lot of people have been asking, hey, you should probably think about doing this because you're living the lifestyle already, right? Like my routine is this. I wake up in the morning, answer some emails, whether it's from clients or from work. I have my whole setup is like 4 screens in front of me, and usually I'm just looking at my work laptop. But
really hope your employer doesn't see this.
It's
I'm gonna get my pink slip tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no, and so I do this, and I go to the gym in the morning, get my fasted cardio done, come home, have my meal 1, usually around 10 or 11, meal 2 at 1 o'clock, meal 3, 3 o'clock, meal 4, 5 o'clock, go to the gym at 6, train for about 2.5, 3 hours, depending on if I have cardio at the end and depending on the body part. And then 9 o'clock, I eat my last meal, right? So I've been doing this since November 2nd, as I said. So I've been basically living the lifestyle, and a lot of people have asked, like, hey, you should do a bodybuilding show, right? And the reason why I'm doing this is not because I think that I'm going to become Mr. Olympia, right? I'm not going to become Big Ramy or Phil Heath or the biggest bodybuilder out there. But it's more of empowerment, as cliche as that is. Because again, if you really look back at my history and look back at what we just talked about, I was the guy that never wanted to leave the house in a t-shirt, right? And I'm getting ready to go on stage in my underwear. So,
Yeah.
you know, so if you look at it in a way where when we spoke about doing things that you're uncomfortable with, that is probably the biggest thing I'm most uncomfortable with going in front of people shirtless, right? Like as corny as it is and as probably as depressing as it is, I hated going to the pools as a young kid. I hated going to the beaches. I hated going to anywhere, water parks, whatever it is. I would leave it, right? I would avoid it at all costs. And now being able to go on stage in my underwear, I feel like is playing into that, do what you're uncomfortable with. So that is my announcement for the podcast, exclusive for Anomaly podcast.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
That's first off, thanks for the exclusive. That is extremely exciting.
Yes.
I mean, it's full circle, complete flip in which you were embarrassed to go outside prior to the progression, and now it's all about empowerment and showing the work that you put into crafting, your body.
Mm-hmm.
That event, I'm really curious. Like, what goes into, I first off, I hope. Are you looking for people to sign up and also present with you, or tell me a little bit of the show?
So bodybuilding in and of itself, there's different classes, right? And everyone signs up to these different events, depending on the date. And when I said prep, it's short for preparation. But what that means is you're dieting down for the show, and you want to look your best. You want to look your leanest, but you also want to look like, you're just your overall best. So there's different divisions, obviously, whether it's classic, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's this, whether it's that, whatever. So what goes into these events are people sign up, you go on stage, there are mandatory poses that you have to hit, and these poses have to be hit certain ways, right? So you're critiqued on your actual pose, and also depending on how you look. So if you go in there as a fat blob, you're going to be brought down in points compared to someone who really worked their butt off and is like literally you can see their organs through their skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously that's how they do things. So in terms of myself and my preparation, I mean, honestly, the routine is pretty much similar. It's just it becomes exponentially harder because first off, I need to be dieting harder. So what I say to most people is, before I started the prep, right, I was dieting, and my diet is always the same. I eat the same foods. I eat the same times. I train the same way. Cardio is just depending on what you're doing per day. But now, and I would get that one day where I would be able to go out with my girlfriend or something for a date night, go to sushi, go to this, go to that. There's no more of that. My last cheat meal was 4 weeks ago, right? And now I'm eating a lot less. I'm about 1,500, 1,600 calories now per day. I'm doing about 50 minutes of cardio a day, 30 in the morning, 20 at night. And I'm also training for 2 hours a day. And before anyone starts to feel bad for me, because I am hungry a lot, I won't lie, I'm hungry right now. But before, I just want to reiterate that anyone who's doing this, anyone who's dieting, anyone who's complaining they're hungry, and this is my take on it, it's a choice. You are choosing to diet. You are choosing to lose weight or to gain weight, whatever you are. There are people out there that don't have a choice and are still hungry, right? There are people on the street where they would kill to have that chicken and rice meal that you're having right now, right? I'm having my 80 grams of rice, 150 grams of chicken, and 15 grams of avocado. They would take their arm off to have that meal. And here I am. Who am I to complain about this chicken and rice meal in front of me, So that's my take on it, and that's what I try to explain, because if you really shift your perspective that way, you find that you're suffering a little less, right? Whether you want to admit it or not, your own thoughts and your own mentality dictate how much you suffer. So
It's all about perspective.
Exactly.
Now I love the mentality. I feel like the opposite extreme is there's the addiction to the to the entire process. It's how do you fixate on people's addiction? I feel like people sometimes can get so into it that um, it sounds like a positive. It sounds still like a good thing. Like if you're addicted to the gym and eating well, like what's wrong with that? But do you feel like that there is like kind of like a negative to that mentality?
100%, because either way, you're still going to be dealing with some type of body dysmorphia, right? You're going to look at yourself and say, I need to look better. I need to do this. I need to do that. And when you become so fixated on yourself and how you look, you're never going to find yourself, you're never going to be satisfied, right? Never. There are very few people who can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I look good. I don't need to change a single thing, right? And there's good and bad in that as well, because I feel like if you don't at least have something you want to work on, you're probably 100% narcissist, right? You definitely are just very obsessed with yourself and think of yourself on a pedestal. But at the same time, in my shoes, at least back in the day, if I would look at myself in the mirror, I would never say one thing positive. I would never say, this looks good. No, I would say, this looks like crap. This looks like crap. I need to change this. I need to change this, right? So in terms of addiction to the process, it really depends on what you're doing this for. So you can't be in competition prep for 52 weeks of the year, right? In my case, it's 13 weeks or 12 weeks. So in those 12 weeks and 13 weeks, and from what I've heard and what I'm going through right now, you kind of need to be almost addicted to your routine, right? Because you just need to realize that you're doing this for a very temporary time. It's not for the whole year. It's not for the rest of your life. But you also need to realize that there's life after this competition. So in terms of that, if you aren't competing and not going for a show, enjoy yourself, but also realize that you need to have some discipline, whether you like it or not.
And the discipline is, you were mentioning part of the routine, and I feel like it sounds cliche when you say, you know, you make sure that everything is the same every single day as much as you possibly can make it. I watch Jordan Peterson a lot. He preaches on waking up the same time every single day. So can you explain why that is, why it's that important to make sure that it's the same? Because some people don't actually see the magnitude of that.
In terms of
Like
in the
the
fitness world or
sameness.
mentality or both?
You know, both. Like it's all interconnected, right? They're not. Nothing is in its own silos. So like whether waking up at the same time to eating your meals at around the same times as much as you possibly can every single day. What is it to the sameness aspect of it that you see its effect on?
So fitness wise, and I like doing this with my clients, you want to eliminate as many variables as possible. So a variable can be eating at, let's say you have your last meal at 8 o'clock or you have your last meal at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, that's a variable. How much water you're drinking every day is also a variable. How much sleep you're getting is also a variable. So I have some clients, for example, where they're dieting their butts off, right? But then all of a sudden when they check in with me on their weights and their pictures, I see that their weight went up. My first question is, and you guys all know this for all my clients, my first question, how was sleep, right? Oh, last night I stayed up watching Netflix. I slept at like 2 a.m. I woke up at 6. I'm like, yeah, that is a part of it, you know? So in terms of routine in the fitness world, or at least with how your body reacts, it's very important, because if you at least, it doesn't have to be so regimented like what I do. And like what, and I'm not an anomaly. Anomaly.
Exactly.
No, but seriously, a lot of people do the same thing I do, so I'm not one of those. But it doesn't have to be so regimented, but at least having some type of routine where, like Jordan Peter says, where you wake up every morning at the same time, you're eating around the same time, you're eating the same foods or around the same foods, it eliminates the variables so you can see what's working and what's not working. So if you see that you're eating 100 grams of rice or 150 grams of chicken, whatever it is, 3 times a day, and you're having some steak here and some steak there, that's a lot easier to decipher your progress rather than saying, oh yeah, Tuesday I had like a wrap for lunch, and dinner I went out to Olive Garden and had some pasta and chicken. And then but Wednesday I had a salad for lunch. You know what I mean? So that way, at least in terms of the coaching world and how you look and how you feel, is a lot easier to decipher. Mentally, it's also easier because, again, going into like at least some type of, if you're suffering mentally, and I hate using the word suffering, but you know what I mean? If you're down in a rut, you learn to almost be in a robot mode, right? Robotic. So in terms of that, you're you're basically staying out of your own head. You have to stay busy, right? So keeping busy, and that's part of the reason why I do so many things, is that you're just staying out of your own head. You don't let your thoughts creep up to you. Like for your example in San Francisco, when you're alone, and it's amazing how your thoughts can creep up on you. That's exactly what you said. It's exactly true, because that just means you're giving yourself more free time for your thoughts to kind of just creep up, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of, now, not many people, I feel like, fit in my shoes of my, my relationship with working out and eating. So, forgive me for the lack of relatability.
Oh, please.
Okay, so, but I feel like there's maybe some insight as to what I think I would ask you a question about corrupted mentality as to why you don't do things a certain way. So let me be as open as possible to kind of get you an idea of like, basically what's kind of almost as if like a client relationship, right?
Sure.
So my job is software engineering. Okay, so I sit at a desk for a very long period of time and I code for a while. My variables to be effective about my job is my mentality, right? So it's ability to focus for a very long period of time, as well as not being tired. Obviously, like just avoiding to be tired. So my biggest hatred towards working out, and my brother hates me when I say it, is soreness. I hate the feeling of soreness. So therefore, and he works out like 3 or 4 times on his home gym setup. So when you work out and then the next day it's like that pain is like, that is counter to my work, because I need to be able to stay a long period of time without that feeling of like soreness and tiredness. So what is that aspect of soreness affecting your day? How do you explain that to counter that?
It's how to counter, how to avoid it.
Yeah, like more like it's just like that's the mentality that stops me most of the time.
Yeah.
That aspect.
You're gonna hate me for this answer.
Okay, and I want you to. I want you to give me the truth.
You want to hate me?
No, I want you to give me the truth.
He wants it straight up.
It's really consistency. The more you work out, and you don't have to, first off, to me, and it doesn't seem like you want to work out, therefore you're not really working out regularly, right?
It's because I have the luxury of feeling like I don't need to try as much.
Yeah.
So again, I hate the lack of
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm going to speak to you like my client, right? So what that means is you're lacking consistency, because the more you work out and the longer you are, so consistency over time, the less sore you're actually going to get over time. And also, it's also about effort. And in terms of effort, I never preach, especially to a client that comes to me and says, I've never worked out a day in my life. When I write their plan, I'm not going to give them a plan as like my client who's been working out for 10 years, right? So the same thing needs to go with you, and anyone else who's actually going through this or wants to go through this. You can't go to the gym and train like all the people that you see on Instagram, on TikTok, and everything like that, right? Yeah. You can't. Because if you do, you're going to be sore as heck the next day, and probably for the next 4 or 5 days, right? So you need to go in and realize that you have a mission and do whatever you can, right? But at the same time, with practicality in the back of your mind. That's the effort-wise. Going back to the consistency-wise, you need to realize that the longer you stay consistent with your workouts, the less sore you will actually be. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I've had probably the greatest chest workout of my life, right? The next day, my chest, I don't even feel it, like no soreness. So soreness, and I want to preach this as well, soreness does not mean a good workout. It actually can mean that there's something wrong. Because if you're too sore after a workout, it's either two things. It's either that you went way too hard, because there's also a point of diminishing returns, where if you're working out way too long, way too hard for an extended period of time, you're actually breaking down the muscle more than you're digging a hole more than you can get out of, right? Deeper than you can get out of. So that means that you just worked out too long or too hard for recovery's sake. Recovery's big. The second thing that might be wrong is you're not eating enough. If you're not eating enough and you're not actually supplying the muscles, or at least your body, what it needs to recover in terms of protein, fats, and carbs are very important for recovery, then more than likely, you need to be eating a little more. So in your aspect with an office job, you got to take it easy. Definitely don't go out there. And if you said your brother is working out 3 or 4 times a week, You don't want to be working out as hard as him because he's been doing it longer than you.
Mhm.
So, and at the same time, you need to look at your diet and say, I should probably be eating more than once or twice a day, and space it out a little longer as well.
I see.
The and just to touch on this, because I'm giving such a long answer for such a short question, but the analogy I give this is, if I throw you one football at a time, right, you're more than likely going to catch it. If I throw you 17 footballs at the same time, you're not going to catch all of them.
True.
Your body is the same way. So meal frequency is very important, because once you give your body more than it can handle and more than it can actually absorb in one go, it's more than likely not going to utilize what it can, and it's just going to end up storing it as fat. So that's my very elongated answer.
So basically, you've got a new client,
Yeah.
which is Larry.
You don't want me as a client. I'm stubborn as hell.
Mina Estfanous Fit on Instagram.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
first off, I just want to say thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, of course.
This was extremely relatable and very educational. Like, I've learned a ton. And you said the competition is when?
November 13th.
Okay. Is there
So
any
we
way
need
we
an
can like
update.
support or watch or?
So it's in Poughkeepsie, New York, so it's an hour and a half away.
Ah, man, I was just there yesterday. Pain in the butt to drive.
Yeah. Wait, were you actually?
I really was.
Really?
No
I
joke.
thought you were kidding.
No.
I thought so too.
Right, hey, right over there. Yeah. Nice,
No.
nice scenery though. There's a lot
Yeah?
of trees. Yeah, driving.
I mean, I probably by the time I'm there, I'm just gonna be thinking about burgers and hot dogs. You know? No, it's just a show. Honestly, it's like, look, guys, it's not the Olympia, right? I'm treating it as the Olympia just
Hey,
because.
don't degrade it.
No, I'm not degrading it, but the competition wise, it's the novice ranked. It's like pee-wee basketball or football compared to like the NFL, right?
Gotcha.
But I really appreciate it that you guys want to come and support. I more than likely will just be keeping it for family and like close ones, or at least like my girlfriend, basically, just to be there. And then the next day, if anyone wants to come, we're hitting up all you can eat sushi the next day.
There you go.
And
That's
we are going
celebrating
to
correctly.
shut down that restaurant.
Celebrating.
They are going to
correctly.
be calling every chef in the northeast area.
But they can keep updated with your Instagram account.
Yes, yes. of
Which
course.
is
Mina Estfanous Fit.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you know, at least you've got Larry and I supporting you.
I appreciate you guys.
I wouldn't say good luck because I think luck is for the mediocre.
Good preparation.
Yeah. But thanks again for being on here. Thank you guys so much for watching the Anomaly Talk podcast. We really hope you guys enjoyed this and got something beneficial. This is Mina Marcos,
Oh, my name's Lawrence Gabriel.
Mina Estfanos. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. And Larry?
Peace.